So today, we are going to peel back the curtain on a truth that many avoid. Emotional intelligence isn't soft. It is survival. It is a strategy. It is success. Hello. Welcome to Clarity to Impact, the space where mindset meets mission and clarity becomes momentum. So if you're ready to think clearly, lead boldly, and turn your vision into measurable impacts or measurable results, you are in the right place. I am your host, Blessing Asuko Ekpo. I am an evaluator, a storyteller, a mindset coach, and a nonprofit leader. So every week, we will dive into the inner work and practical strategy that it takes to grow as a purpose-driven professional and also be able to create real-world impact. This is our first episode, and we are very happy that you have joined us. Today, we will be discussing emotional mastery and intelligence, and I will be breaking down how to master your inner world when emotions speak louder than logic. Let's get into it. You might want to grab some journal or notepad for this. Okay, let me ask us a question before we start. Have you ever sent a text that you regretted? I mean, that text that you wish that you could take it back, but it's already gone. Or have you ever walked into a room and the mood shifted without warning? Or have you found yourself crying in the bathroom at work and you couldn't even explain why? I'm sure some of us have experienced either one or all of this. Now, in a world that rewards logic and achievement, why do our emotions still hold the power to unravel or awaken us? Ever wondered why? According to a 2023 study from the American Psychology Association, 65% of professionals report that emotional overwhelm has affected their decision making in the last year. Not lack of skills, not lack of opportunities, but emotions. So today, we are going to peel back the curtain on a truth that many avoid. Emotional intelligence isn't soft. It is survival. It is a strategy. It is success. Now you ask, why does this matter? It does matter because we've all been taught how to think, but we've not been taught how to feel. Most of us were never taught how to name our emotions or how to regulate our triggers or even sit with discomfort without numbing it. What are the results today? We confuse suppression with strength. We perform fine when we're actually falling apart. Many of us interpret emotions or emotional needs as flaws, and this is not normal. Emotional needs are not flaws. They should be normal to every human being. And also, sometimes depending on your upbringing, your gender or cultural background, you may have been taught that certain emotions are unacceptable. And in some cultures, as a matter of fact, emotional expression is survival, but in some, it is a taboo. So this matters because your leadership skills or your leadership, your relationships, your creativity, and even healing hinges on how well you can interpret and respond to your emotional data. So without mastery, we remain reactive instead of responsive, and we get stuck in the loops that sabotages our growth. Many high-performing individuals think emotions are obstacles. In truth, they are intel. Because if you misread your emotions, you might mislead yourself. Take that again. If you misread your emotions, you might mislead yourself. So it is very important. So today, we are going to be discussing an emotional intelligence framework. And the one that I chose to discuss today is the Daniel Goleman model. It has 4 quadrants of emotional intelligence. And we are going to be discussing all 4 quadrants in details. So the first quadrant of the Daniel Goleman model of emotional intelligence is called self-awareness. And this has to do with recognizing your own emotions and your triggers. How do you apply this? Through journaling, through breath work, and through check-ins. The second quadrant is called self-regulation. This has to do with managing emotions in healthy and adaptive ways. And how can you apply this? Through pause response gap and through grounding tools. Now, the third quadrant of this framework is called social awareness. And this has to do with understanding your emotions, the emotions rather of others. So being able to relate with other people's emotions, like another word for that would be empathy. And how can you apply this is through active listening and through mirroring, like trying to see yourself in that person's situation. And finally, the last quadrant is called the relationship management. And this has to do with navigating conflict and building emotional trust. And this is applied in conflict resolution and also through clear communication. These are the 4 quadrants of emotional intelligence. Please do well to go and study them. I would like you to know that there are 2 measures of intelligence. We have the intelligence quotient and we have the emotional quotient. Now, the intelligence quotient measures cognitive intelligence and academic problem-solving abilities, okay? While the emotional quotient measures emotional intelligence and the ability to be able to recognize, understand, and manage emotions effectively. Now, intelligence quotient measures how people learn and understand and apply information, while emotional quotient would measure emotional understanding, empathy, and self-awareness. Now, a well-rounded professional should ideally have both IQ and EQ to perform well, to be able to do well, like perform well in their job. All right? Goleman's research in 1995 and in 2011 shows that emotional quotient is a stronger predictor of success than intelligence quotients, especially in leadership, in sales, and also in entrepreneurship. Now, another research, the Harvard Business Review study also found that 90% of top performers score high in emotional quotient, while just 20% of low performers do. Now, let's use a metaphor. Let's see emotional intelligence as a GPS. Let's say your thoughts are the vehicle, but your emotions, they are signals that tell you when to turn, when to slow down, or reroute. When we are emotionally triggered, there's a part of our brain called the amygdala that can take over. Now, this will flood us with impulse, which we sometimes can call emotional hijack. So emotional mastery would help you slow down, recenter, and then re-engage your thinking, or re-engage your thinking brain before you react. There is a hidden blind spot here. The smarter or more accomplished we become, the more sophisticated our emotional avoidance can become, because the belief that logic alone is enough can become a trap. Yes. So emotional mastery requires humility, the willingness to pause even when you think you already know. I want to invite you to a moment of emotional honesty right now. So, when was the last time you ignored a gut feeling only to regret it later? Or what emotions do you feel least comfortable expressing? Why and why? Also, what story have you been told or have you told yourself about being too emotional? In conflict, do you seek control, connection, or escape? What would it feel like to befriend your emotions instead of fighting them? Answer these questions. Right now, I'm going to introduce us to a clarity to action framework. Let's make this tangible, okay? So, we are going to call it the NAME Framework for Emotional Mastery, NAME, okay? So, the first step is N. That means we are going to name our emotions, name it. And the action is going to be to identify the core emotion you're feeling. So, what is it? Anger, wrath, sadness. Use your emotion wheel or journaling prompt. Okay. Most people only use about 3 to 5 words for how they feel. But emotional clarity starts with emotional language. So, emotional mastery doesn't mean suppressing how you feel, it means stewarding it, leading it, and guiding it. Mastery begins when we stop outsourcing our emotional safety to others. That is when we begin to truly master and control our emotions. And the second step in the clarity to action framework is going to be the A, which is ask why. So the action here is reflect on what triggered your emotion. So a practical example would be, what story am I telling myself right now? For instance, in a scenario where you receive a short, cold sounding reply from a friend after sharing something really vulnerable and you are feeling hurt or dismissed. So, in this case, the name framework for the A, which is ask why, is that you would ask yourself, am I assuming their tone reflects how they feel about me? Or is there another explanation that I haven't considered? Like, are they busy or are they distracted? So, this is a typical application of the ask why step in the name framework. All right. Now, the third step in the clarity to action framework would be move it. Now, the action we're going to take in this step is to shift the emotional energy physically. So just stand up, take a walk, breathe, or stretch, or just vocalize. Do something, move it, move the emotional energy physically. The last step in this framework would be to engage it, and that is the E. Engage the emotion. So you respond mindfully, not reactively. A practical example here would be to choose a response aligned with your values. So be very mindful in responding. Do not react. A practical example of engaging your emotion in this step would be if a colleague interrupts you multiple times during a meeting and you're feeling frustration, you're feeling disrespected, instead of snapping or shutting down, you take a deep breath and say calmly, I'd like to finish my thoughts before we move on. Then I'm happy to hear your input. All right? That's how to apply
this step in the name framework.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the clarity to action framework of emotional intelligence. Now, let's introduce, we're going to have a 7 days challenge. And for the next 7 days, I would like you to practice the name framework I have just introduced you to. Practice the name method once a day. Record your insights. Notice how your body feels and also how your mind reacts and what patterns emerge. Observe whatever patterns emerge. All right. So let me give you a real life application story. So take Maya, a team lead in a fast paced agency. Mid meeting, like during a meeting, a client criticizes her design. And normally she'll shut down, or lash out. But in this case, she paused. She named what she felt: embarrassment and pressure. She feared looking incompetent. So what she did was she took a breath, stood up to stretch post meeting, and then choose to respond with curiosity, not defensiveness. Take note: curiosity, not defensiveness. That's emotional mastery in action. All right. So that's an example of applying this name framework for the next 7 days. So when you own your emotions, they stop owning you. Take this away. If you haven't taken anything away from today, take it away. Because emotional mastery isn't perfection, it is about presence. The moment you begin to listen to your emotions, not as enemies, but as messengers, you unlock inner wisdom no one can take from you. You can decide to DM us or share your 7 day name practice wins. You can DM us at Clarity to Impact Pod on Instagram and Clarity to Impact on Twitter. Or you can also comment right here in the comment section. All right. That's it for this episode of Clarity to Impact. I hope this gave you the insight or the push that you needed to take your next best step. Now, if you love this episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps more mission-driven people find the space. If you want personalized support turning your clarity into action, head over to www.blessingasukwuekpo.com or click the link in our description and book a clarity call or a strategy session. Remember, your impact starts with your mindset and your momentum starts with clarity. See you next Tuesday. Goodbye.